I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Peabody City Council Finance Committee. Present for the committee this evening are Councilors Gamache, Gould, Manning Martin, and Turco, myself as chair. Also joining us, Councilors Peach, Daigle, O'Neill, Melville, and Rosignol. We have several items on the agenda tonight. First item, Council Motion P-190-22 by Councilor Rosignol, move to refer to the Finance Committee a recommendation for a 3% raise for the school committee. Members of the committee, we have a clarification that was sent to us from the clerk that was on your desk as late 8. Unless there's any objections.
Move to receive.
Councilors, you heard the motion to receive late communication 8. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you said, this is a motion from Councilor Rosignol, whereas he's not a member of the committee. I just wanted to speak on behalf of the motion and state the fact that I support emphatically increasing the salary levels for the school committee members. I'm less inclined to support 3%, which I believe is roughly $15 a week. And I think that I'd be more inclined to increase the salary level to $6,000, which would be a $900 salary adjustment, and bring their salary to $120 per week for a school committee member. As most of us know, we've seen the school committee work diligently in very difficult circumstances, more so than I believe even us as a council over the last 2 years. In a standard year, I think their budget cycle is more intensive. I think the issues that arise through a school district are abundant, and while this year or the last 2 years were COVID related, the years prior to that were contract related or union related, and I think there will always be a cyclical issue that demands the time of the school committee members. And for $5,100, I understand they certainly didn't run for $5,100, but I think to adequately support the time that they put into these things, in addition to subcommittee meetings. I recently watched a subcommittee meeting, a school committee meeting the other night where school committee member Hockman, who was spearheading redistricting, building and grounds, some intense issues that took a lot of time and effort, and I think that no matter who holds those positions, they'll all be, it will make some demands on them to address some serious issues. So I think it's just appropriate. There were 2 raises, as you can see from the late edition, there was one in, if I can find the date. I cannot find the date. 1988 was one raise, and then there was an additional raise in 2014, so it's roughly about 8 years ago. So I would support the raise, and thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. Comments, questions from other committee members? Councilor Gamache.
Yes, thank you. I too echo the proposal from Councilor Turco. I think that it's a raise that's quite overdue. Again, they do a tremendous job with what they have to put up with, and they're a little bit structured a little bit differently, and we have, former school committee members that can attest to that. But I think the time has come, and the $6,000 was what you proposed? The $6,000 amount seems to be adequate at this time, and hopefully we don't go another 8 years before we try to adjust some of these salaries for the boards. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gamache. Councilor O'Neill.
Thank you, Chairman. Again, I'm not a member of the committee, but I appreciate the opportunity just to make a few brief comments. Overall, I'm in support of increasing the salary of the school committee members. I just look at it from a different perspective that kind of gets to the same, I guess, discussion or viewpoints of fellow councilors Gamache and Turco. I think that what overall we want to attract candidates and people who want to serve to elected positions, want to serve with the city, and not that this stipend or salary is going to, cause anyone to quit their full-time job, but it would help and does help people who might have issues that would prevent them from serving, whether it be helping with daycare or helping with elders, some sort of cost that can help alleviate it. And that's the point I want to make, that we want to attract and keep people interested in serving the city. And so that $6,000, if that's agreed, isn't going to break the bank for the city, but also it does provide it. I just caution that it shouldn't be they haven't got a raise or we haven't got a raise or whoever it is. It should be about attracting the right candidate and position for the future. It shouldn't be about what didn't get. Certainly, I know I ran for city council 4 years ago, and I didn't even know what the salary was. I did it because I wanted to serve, and I know this for a fact that none of the current city council or school committee members are doing this for the salary that they give. They do it because they want to serve and dedicate themselves. So I just wanted to make those comments. But overall, all that comments about how we get there, I'm in favor of this and would support it if it passes the committee tonight. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor O'Neill. Councilor Manning Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just quick math, Councilor Turco, the 6,000 or the, 900 increase over the last 8 years, right? We haven't given them they haven't received a raise in eight years.
Correct, almost 9.
So that breaks down to about 2% a year, that difference, right? Yeah, and the council received a raise, the mayor received a raise. It's pretty simple to me, but that's fair. So I support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Manning Martin. Councilor Rossignol.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not on this committee, but the reason why I brought this forward is for all of the reasons raised by my fellow councilors. Being most recently from the school committee, I know the due diligence that they do. I know the hard work that they put in. And the amount of hours that goes into the school committee far surpasses the $6,000 that they actually get on an annual basis if this was to be approved. So that's why I brought it forward. That's why I think it's important. And this will now be their third raise in 24 years. So I think that will be a good thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Rossignol. Councilor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Nobody really likes to talk about money or raises, but in this case, it's very well deserved, in my opinion. And as Councilor Manning Martin stated, it's not even 2% a year, so I am in support of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gould. Any other councilors? Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If there's no further questions I'd be prepared to make a motion.
Go ahead, Councilor Turco.
Thank you. Motion to amend the Code of the City of Peabody adopted January 8th, 1986. Hereby further amend as follows by deleting Section 18-20A entitled Schedule of Compensation for Part-Time Positions, the position titled and rate of compensation, quote, member school committee, $4,000 annually, and inserting in place thereof Section 18-20 entitled Schedule of Compensation for Part-Time Positions, the position title and rate of compensation, member school committee, $6,000 yearly, and advertise.
Councilors, you heard the motion by Councilor Turco on the motion. Seeing none, roll call.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Gamache. Turco.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Next item on the agenda, Item B, establish an ordinance creating a departmental revolving fund for the Peabody Children's Museum. Mr. Gingras.
Thank you. This is a request to create a revolving fund for the newly adopted Children's Museum. It's similar to the same ordinance that we did for Tilly's Farm a few years ago. It would enable them to take their proceeds from any of the sales or fundraising and utilize it towards the expenses of the operation.
Thank you, Mr. Gingras. Questions from the committee? Questions from other councilors? Council Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There being no further questions, I'd like to make a motion to move forward and amend an ordinance, Article 3, Department Division 8, Children's Museum Department. And I'll read the entire script, Mr. Chairman. Be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Peabody as follows. Section 2-89, Establishment of the Peabody Children's Museum Revolving Fund in accordance with Chapter 44, Section 53F and a half of the Massachusetts General Laws. 1, expenditures from the fund can be made by any allowable expenses as set forth in Chapter 44, Section 53F and a half for the Peabody Children's Museum. Number 2, revenues and receipts generated through Peabody Children's Museum activities shall be credited to the Peabody Children's Museum Revolving Fund. Number 3, the Peabody Children's Museum Executive Director is authorized to expend from the fund. And number 4, expenditures from the fund is limited to the available balance in the revolving fund. The revolving fund balance at the end of the fiscal year shall be retained by the fund. So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Councilors, you heard the motion by Council Gould. On the motion, Council Manning Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Mr. Gingras. Regarding number 3, the Peabody Children's Museum Executive Director is authorized to expend from the fund. Is this the same format for the golf course and the rink, that the directors in those enterprise funds, is that set up the same way?
Yeah, it's all the same way. And that they can expend from the fund, but it goes through all of our accounting processes and approvals. So they're authorized, just like a department head, to purchase supplies or expend money. But it has to go through the auditing and approval process also.
And that language is not in the rink or the golf course?
No, the rink doesn't even have a revolving fund. The golf course does, Tilly's Farm does, Brooksby Farm does. And this is the language we use for Tilly's Farm.
Okay, thank you. The rink isn't under the, with the golf course, didn't that get absorbed? And we have both under that Recreation Enterprise Fund or something?
That's an enterprise fund, which is separate from this. This is a
Okay, that was what I was getting at.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you very much.
Motion's on the floor. Seeing no others on the motion, roll call.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Next item on the agenda, item C, transfer funds, police salaries, full-time, in amount of $210,000. Mr. Gingras.
Thank you. The city and the police unions agreed to a 2% increase for this fiscal year. And this $210,000 request from salary reserve will pay for the 2% increase that covers FY 2022.
Questions from the committee. Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Gingrich, curious to know, there are 2 unions listed here, but I thought the police department subdivided into 3 separate unions. So would you be aware if all 3 contracts have been agreed upon? I think there was a patrolman's union, a sergeant's union, and then captain and above now.
Yeah, for this 2%, it included the patrolmen's, and the sergeants, lieutenants, and captains, all of them. In the next round of negotiations for FY '23, '24, '25, we'll have separate agreements for the patrolmen, sergeants and lieutenants, and captains. There'll be 3, but this includes everyone.
Thank you. And additionally, the $210,000, does that also cover, I believe there's a substantial amount of police overtime this year, so obviously that would be at the higher rate retroactively. So does this $210,000 cover the increase for the overtime rate from the prior fiscal year?
No, this is just covering their base pay, retro for what they've made so far year to date on regular pay and overtime, and then a projection going forward for the regular pay only. We submitted a request to council that'll be coming forward to cover police overtime and fire overtime through ARPA funds for the rest of the year.
Thank you very much.
Councilor Gamache.
Real quickly, the ARPA funds, those are going to cover, you said through the rest of the year, you're talking the fiscal year. Okay, that's the clarification I wanted. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gamache. Other members of the committee? Councilor Gould.
Ready to make a motion, Mr. Chairman, if...
Please proceed.
Make a motion to transfer from salary reserve account number 100-01320-51925 in the amount of $210,000 to account police salaries full-time, account number 100-4905-5110. Did I do enough ones? 5110, yes, again, in the amount of $210,000. So moved, Mr. Chairman. Yes, please.
I just noticed an error in the account number. It should be, instead of 4905, it should be 2100.
Yep. I'll amend it. Thank you.
I missed that.
Madam Clerk, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to amend that motion, if I could, please. We'll start again. Like to transfer from salary reserve account 100-01320-51925 in the amount of $210,000 to account police salaries full-time, account number 100-2100-5110, again in the amount of $210,000. So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Councilors, you heard the motion by Councilor Gould on the motion. Seeing none, roll call.
Councilors Gould. Manning Martin. Gamache.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Next item on the agenda, item D, transfer of funds, CPC Lake and Pond Restoration, amount of $40,900. Mr. Gingras.
Thank you. This is an additional funding request for the Elginwood project that was previously voted at $150,000, and it came in a little bit higher, so the committee's asking for $40,900 addition.
Questions from the committee? Questions from other councilors? Seeing none, Councilor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ready to make a motion, Mr. Chairman?
Please proceed.
Make a motion from CPC Open Space, account number 270-0000-33021, in the amount of $40,900 to account CPC Lake and Pond Restoration, account number 270-1811-58562-2022-00-0392, again in the amount of $40,900. So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Councilors, you heard the motion from Councilor Gould. On the motion, seeing none, roll call.
Councilors Gould. Manning Martin. Gamache.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Entertain a motion to adjourn. We are adjourned.